Veteran Mobile's mission is to provide our U.S. veterans, their families, and all of their supporters with a quality mobile service that is partnered with the world's largest, most robust, most secure, and fastest 5G network. Joining our cause not only gives you a premier mobile service that is proven to be relied on, while you also become a part of our family, a movement that supports our veterans and their families through our contributions to organizations that help veterans and/or their families. Combating veteran homelessness is at the heart of our cause. It's one of the most important among many reasons why we contribute to veteran service organizations that help our veterans, especially homeless veterans. As a team, we can make a very significant impact and provide essential assistance to those who have served our nation with honor and courage. Join us and make a real difference. Veteran Mobile is founded by veterans and operated by veterans, their families, and/or veteran supporters. Our mission gives us a drive and desire to contribute back as much as we can. With Veteran Mobile, every call, every text, and every connection serves a much greater purpose, honoring and supporting our U.S. veterans. The faster we grow, the more we can give. Veteran Mobile, beyond the call, combating veteran homelessness.
Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero. We are not in the superhero battle room, but it's still going to be a heated interview as we go over and connect with David Don Hobley. He is an Air Force veteran who took many skill sets during the longevity of his career, what he learned and leveraged to become a chief solutionist for the community. And there's no way I can go over and explain it, so that's why we're going to bring him on stage to go share his transformational story. Hey, David, do I have you?
Hey, Danielle, thank you for having me on today. Appreciate you.
Yeah, so before we get into our question about your military family part, I want to figure out what a chief solutionist is, at least so everybody knows and not just bogged by this really amazing term.
Yeah, thank you. I actually, because of the skills that I learned in the Air Force and in the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol before that, and my stepfather who taught me there was no problem that you couldn't put your mind to and overcome. I started working with a lot of people to overcome, hardships they were in, overcome problems they had in their business, and to help them find quick, easy, and streamlined solutions that would help them towards success. So a lot of my followers started calling me chief because of the military and solutionist. One of my mentors said, "You're a solutionist." And it kind of got put together as I was a chief solutionist. So I took that name that I was gifted and I branded it and started the trademark on it and on the domain name and all that. So that's kind of how it got started.
And that's awesome. And you got that kind of that Intel spin, so it can be remembered. So that's really cool too.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you for giving that quick explanation, because I don't want the whole audience to be like, I don't know what that is. And they'll be stumbling all day long. So let's get into, before the chief solutionist started, what inspired you to join the military family and which branch did you join?
Well, that's a great question. I joined the U.S. Air Force. I actually had a lot of things in my family pulling me to join other branches. For instance, I got my inspiration to join the military from my family, my interest in flying, my interest in technology. My grandparents, I had people in the military from the top down. I mean, my grandparents clear back to World War I. I had a grandfather in the Marine Corps. World War II, I had a grandfather in the Army Air Force and a grandfather in the Army. One was in the Pacific, one was in Europe, World War II. My grandmother was in Women's Air Service working to help do things for the military behind the scenes. And then, I had a couple uncles. I had a couple uncles in the Army, Navy, and then an aunt in the Army. And then my birth father was in the Marine Corps in Vietnam, came home a different person, and kind of got separated from him for many years. And then my stepfather was in the Army. So I had a lot of military influence, a lot of discipline, if you can imagine. And I was taught to the privilege pretty much was no problem. The couldn't be solved if you put your mind to it and had some teamwork to pull together to get it done. So you know I kind of enjoyed dancing and singing when I was younger, and then as I kinda got drawn towards flying and technology, and then I heard about the Air Force cadets, AKA the Civil Air Patrol. I got involved with that, and that was all she wrote. I ended up giving up singing and dancing and just went into, leadership and aerospace education, flying, um, and emergency services to serve the community more. So that's kinda how I got started, and, I had planned to go into the Air Force Academy, but I ended up homeless with my family, hit some hard times in the 80s, ended up living all around the United States in different states and trying to regain what we had and get some property and a home again. And because of that, I didn't do as well in school as I would have liked and couldn't get an Air Force Academy appointment and ended up enlisting. So that's kind of how I got started in the military.
Whew, you started a heavy life, like, already, like, the gun was loaded and your life was getting shot at, and you still came in and still came into the Air Force. The good thing is that until we're dead, we can still do other things, so hopefully singing and dancing comes back to your life again. We'll get into that maybe
Yeah.
towards the end. So, you went into the Air Force in the '90s and went in for a season, so when did you make that transition to become a veteran? A little bit about the backstory, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I served in the Air Force from 90 to 99, honorably, obviously. I served at Travis Air Force Base, California, of course, Lackland, Texas, that everybody serves at, Shepherd, Texas for tech school. Initially, I was put into air transportation. The recruiters, they tell you, oh, you're going to have this great job. Well, initially, I had an intel job, but it wasn't happening fast enough for me. And I kind of wanted to get out of the situation I was in being homeless. So I said, hey, have you got something else for me working with planes? I always loved to fly, and I had a little color vision handicap and some depth perception issues. So the best he could do for me apparently was air transportation. So I spent the next many years working several positions in air transportation and air mobility command, moving cargo, passengers, cargo that you wouldn't believe all around the world, including feeding the world. Whenever we weren't practicing or at war, we were actually doing humanitarian missions, Mount Pinatubo evacuation, Operation Support Hope and Provide Hope, feeding and providing clean water in Africa, and a lot of other things like that. So I spent a lot of time doing, air transportation and air mobility command things, including first in, first out airlift control element work on several missions. And I also did some extra duty stuff. I did a stint in addition to my job as a dormitory manager during my first tour at Travis. And then I spent 4 years in Europe in Germany and had additional duties. I was running combat readiness and resources for my squadron, and I was also the contingency dormitory manager, air reserve coordinator, and some other things. So I got a lot of opportunity to learn a lot, to do a lot of coordination, planning, management, project management, and solve problems. So I was really blessed in that area. Sadly, most of the people in my career field, we bust our butts so hard for so many hours a day, and when I say that, I don't say that lightly. Most air transportation people during the time that I was in are working, 12 to 16 hours a day, kind of hard labor. I know a lot of us in the military do, but kind of hard labor. And we're pushing things that you wouldn't believe, helicopters and aircraft and sub, different types of things in and out of aircraft to move all around the world. And when I say subs, these were smaller, back then classified smaller, units, but tanks, armored personnel carriers, all kinds of stuff, and getting them from point A to point B. So it requires a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of effort, a lot of load planning. I served in load planning for many years where, the weights and balances and location of hazards have to be perfect on an aircraft in order for it to fly and not crash. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, and I kind of burned the wick at both ends. Probably overexerted myself in a lot of areas, and wore myself out. And then, not to mention, we had a lot of exposures, probably in Saudi Arabia when the Scud missiles were coming down. My gas mask wouldn't fit right. That's another story. And also, just basically pushing too much weight, and jumping out of aircraft, and doing the things that our career field kind of did, jumping off of heavy equipment. And by the time 1999 rolled around, I was up for reenlistment. I had just tested for E6 tech sergeant, and I knew I made it because you have to have enough points with your decorations, which were just phenomenal at that point. Your EPRs, your enlisted performance reports, and I did very well there. And so beyond that, you had to meet your fitness requirements, which I did, and you have to test well. And when I walked out of testing, I knew I missed maybe one or two questions that I wasn't completely confident on. So I knew that if I stayed in, I'd get my line number for tech, and I'd be good to go. So that's, for the Air Force, especially in my career field, but for the Air Force in general, because people don't tend to leave and to have the turnover that they have in the Army and Navy. It's usually harder to get promoted. So 9-year staff or tech is pretty fast burner. So I had a choice to make. Either I was going to reenlist or I was going to get out. And at the time, I was in massive pain. I was being tortured by the Navy hospital in Charleston with testing that they were doing on me. Because of the political situation at the time, support for family services in the military was lacking. We couldn't find daycare for our child. We had our first child in Germany and brought her back to Charleston Air Force Base. Couldn't find daycare. So, I'd work 12, 13, 14, sometimes more hours per night on grave shift. I'd come home in the morning. I'd get about a 15-minute nap to half an hour nap. I'd have to wake up to take care of my child while my spouse at the time would go to work. And I'd spend the rest of the day playing with her, feeding her, taking care of her, and sometimes sleeping with my head on the high chair. And she just tapped me when she wanted something, but that's the best we could do at the time. And I had a choice to make. Either I stay in and deal with those types of things and continue with the pain that I was having, and some other service related issues, or get out. And it was a hard decision for me because I loved serving in the military. I loved the teamwork. I loved, what we do. We have a constitutional republic, and to be able to protect and defend the Constitution and individual liberty in this country, and to help other countries either maintain their liberty or achieve that, was important to me. And it was a hard break, but I knew I could do better for my family. That was the first decision I put in my head. What can I do for my family? Can I do better for them in the military or out? And then how best could I take care of my health? And I knew the decision that I had to make at that point. So come to find out, I was kind of misled in the military. They told me if I got out, I'd basically have the same dealings with my health, dealing with the VA and compensation, dealing with the VA, that I would if I stayed in, which was actually, I found out later, was not true. If I'd stayed in 6 more months, I would have been medically retired. So that was a little bit unfortunate because I spent the next many years fighting for compensation for my disabilities, and working my butt off, around the clock to make things happen for my family. So it was a challenge, but and of course there was many challenges before the military, in the military, and since. But all those things, I look back on it, and it was really a blessing. God gifted me with challenges and helped me get through them, between that and my team, my family, my friends, and the family you create. And truly, I look back on it. It was rough. It was a rough go, but I've had a lot of blessings in between, and overall, the whole thing has been a real blessing.
Yeah, that's huge. I have to share something. I was a 2T2, so I can relate to air transportation. I used to be a cargo guy, only did it 2 years. I really sucked at it really bad, so they let me leave.
Yeah.
But I work with these guys and girls every single day, and it still hasn't changed that much. 12 to 14-hour days. It's 24/7 on the base that I'm at. It's
Oh,
you go over and you're still pushing these pallets that are on there and weights and measures, and it can literally break you because you're going
yes.
over and you think it's on wheels and getting in there. If it gets stuck in a groove on the aircraft, or if you don't get it
Constantly.
loaded right, and after loading pallet after pallet, even with the vehicles that we push it in, it's still these vehicles. If you've ever seen the movies, like, and things of that nature, talking to my audience, that you'll see this thing drop into the aircraft. It looks amazing. They don't show you the edited part that the people are pushing that in
Yes.
hundreds of feet into the back, and it could be a tank, it could just be boxes, it could
Yes.
be seats for the people to transport in there, and those type of things. And then they're planning all the logistics and working with the flight line and air traffic controllers to get this done.
Yes.
There's usually about a crew of 150 to 300 people that are literally loading these aircraft 24/7. So yeah, when David's talking about back-breaking work, it's literally back-breaking work. I was fortunate and blessed. I only did 2 years on the reserve, but man, just even on the reserve, it was a grind. So I give you kudos for doing
It's
one of the.
yeah, you hit that on the head. It's a grind, and, there's different positions in air transportation that aren't as physically laborious, but
Mhm.
the ones that aren't are mentally laborious. It can be very stressful too. So it's an interesting career field, but I think that a lot of us come out of that with the ability to come up with solutions that most people just they don't have the type of experience that can help them, come up with quick solutions and streamline. And there was a lot of situations where your life is really at risk. Like a guy was next to me dropped a pallet of bombs. When we were moving bombs and missiles and about everything else you can imagine that moves with military transport system. So yeah, you hit it on the head. It's a grind.
Yeah, if I didn't experience it, I've been many different AFSCs, and that was one of the hardest ones. Like, physically, I didn't do the mental or everything else because I was a young E5 in the reserves before I cross trained over. But after 2 years, I literally had one of those like K loaders, and I was getting trained on those. And literally, I almost dropped the pallets off the high line. For the audience, it's like a dock. So literally, I'm lining
Yes.
this vehicle to the
Yes.
dock, and these pallets are coming up Mach 2, and then I'm in the air trying to load pallets and almost dropped a pallet out of an aircraft. After that, I'm like, I'm done. I suck at this career field. My chief's like, you sure do. You can go. So when the audience
That's
is
funny.
listening, that this career field is one of the most grueling, even though the education initially is not that hard to get into the career field. When you're in it, in the midst, real world education, live stuff, fixing things and everything else,
Yes.
and trying to put square pegs in round holes, literally, so we can get equipment and people to locations. It is a beast.
Yes.
So, with being a beast, let's lead into the next question. So, you got out in 1999. The economy was sort of okay. It was before 9/11. We had
Mhm.
Clinton in office. It was kind of that in between time. For the transition for you talking about, not just the VA, but just overall, was the transition easy? Was it difficult? Was there anything that you
Well,
went through you'd like to share?
yeah, well, there's one thing I should have mentioned, and that is a lot of us end up doing additional duties, and I talked about a couple of those, but I also served on the U.S. Air Force Honor Guard while I was at Travis, and then I ran the Rhein-Main Air Base Honor Guard in Germany as we were drawing down. And sadly, part of service is sometimes you lose the people that you serve with, and sometimes you even have to bury those same people. And on the Honor Guard, I ended up transporting and burying and providing honors for fellow troops, and then troops even that we were still bringing back from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, South America, bringing them back in through Travis, and and that wears on you as well. So all these things impact our military members, in a variety of ways. So sometimes, the damage it does to one, and I wanted to bring this up because a lot of people don't realize that sometimes it's not a physical disability that people are dealing with. Sometimes they see and experience things that the normal person doesn't see or experience, and it has a lifetime impact on you. And and sometimes that makes transitioning even harder. Not to mention you're leaving the military, which you're in an environment where a lot of things are planned, and you're in a mission, and your mission is planned. I mean, you have to improvise, adapt, and overcome a lot to make things work. But you have a team, and you're working together like you wouldn't believe. I mean, people of every race, every religion, every creed, every nationalities, people from different states, and people from different lifestyles, and they come together, they love on each other, and they work together to get the mission done. And it's a beautiful thing. So that's a huge benefit. But transitioning out of that into employment, sometimes where things are more dog eat dog and less teamwork, um, you know, struggling to find jobs. A lot of people don't want to hire veterans, and they're really missing out because most veterans will make very problem solving employees, but they're usually best for a leadership position, working for a company or a manager that knows how to treat them. And by the time you're done in the military, you're kind of done taking orders, and you're ready to get a little different type of respect for what you've done, and a little different mindset. So it's a excuse me, it's important for employers to know that you have to handle uh, veterans a little differently, but the reward from that is huge if you can learn how to do that. So the transition for me when I got out in 1999 was a little bit rough, as it is for all veterans. The unknowns, lack of support from the military as you're getting out. At the time, our transition assistance program was, I mean, in my opinion, non-existence. Yeah, they didn't want you to leave, and if you did, you're on your own. Let me give you the boot in the butt, and it doesn't matter how honorably you served. And for an example of that, um, I enlisted in Alabama when I was homeless, and when you get out of the military, they move your stuff back to your home of record. And at the time, I guess they called that my home of record, but it wasn't fair because it technically wasn't my home of record. And I tried to, my wife wanted to go back to my wife at the time wanted to go back to California, and they wouldn't move us back there. And I had to apply for a waiver, and I submitted my decorations and my EPRs and all that, and they still declined me. So we had to pay for a lot of our own way back. As a matter of fact, I had to move our stuff back by myself from the East Coast to the West Coast. So there was a lot of things that should have been done differently, and weren't really fair, but you improvise, adapt, and overcome and get it done. So then I had health issues. I had a lot of pain, and a lot of other types of trauma that impacted me. But I still rolled with the punches, and and worked with my family at the time, and I got it done. I was so sure of myself when I got out that not only did I move my family, uh, you know, coast to coast, but I also bought our new vehicle without having a job, no job promises, no job outlook to speak of. But I knew we needed a new vehicle so that we had one that would run for us for a while. And I still had my ID card, and it wasn't expired yet. I was a few days from my ID card expiring. So technically, I'm still employed, right? So I went into the local Ford dealership, and I knew we'd probably need a truck so we could move again. And I bought a truck without having a job, and just knowing that I would buckle down and make it work. And I did.
That's, I think, the fortitude of a lot of veterans and everything else to go over and to figure it out and to go get it done. And the good part is that you could take all those skills as an air transportation person, saying like square peg, round hole, square peg, round hole. I'm like, wait a minute, civilian world sometimes is square peg, round hole, and you were able to go over and to do that. So again, it was 1999, early 2000, whatnot, and it's been a while since you've now been veteran and everything else. So what made you pivot to serve your community? I don't know. Based on what I'm reading, it seems you serve multiple communities. So What made you
Yeah.
serve as this chief solutionist and then the communities that you serve?
Well, I talked about our schedule in the military, and I was the kind of guy that luckily I had the energy level and the health to me to the point up to the last year of my service that I volunteered a lot, even for volunteer things. Helping the American Red Cross was a big thing when we were in Special Olympics. I always wanted to help community and help people that, you know, didn't have the same benefits that we had, and maybe they were hungry or disabled, or needed blood, all different types of things. And I was constantly spearheading ways to help those organizations, getting people together. So that's something I got from my family. My family growing up was always very loving, close knit, would take their shirt off and give it to anybody who needed it. When we saw people in our neighborhoods that needed food, we'd go out and buy them food and put a box of food on their porch. And my stepfather, anytime anybody was down and needed to drive and their vehicle was broken or their bicycle even was broken, he even welded a guy's bicycle together one time. He just taught me that, my whole family taught me that, you do what's called tzedakah, the Hebrew or biblical word for charity, and you make sure people are taken care of and have what they need, and that's kind of the way the United States has been overall. We are very big on liberty and individual rights and giving people a chance to be successful, and loving our neighbor, and Judeo-Christian values. So that was very strong within me growing up. So they taught me, my grandparents and my mom and my dad and my sister at times with different things, even though she was younger than me. We taught each other that you take care of people, you get together. And homelessness, really humbled me and made me realize that, your family, you got to work together and make things happen sometimes. And sometimes your family is not just those you're born with, but it's the family that you decide you want and that accept you too. So you create that extended family, and it helps you get through. So, um, I was taught how to think outside the box from the time I was very young, and I through many challenges and through the military, I got to exercise that a lot. So I wanted to put what I've learned to work, both with my children. As I had children, I ended up with three beautiful girls, and now, later in life, I've been divorced and I have a godson now, and I've been able to instill in them the values that I learned, and then also to continue helping the community. I served in the Civil Air Patrol from the time I was 12, U.S. Air Force Auxiliary that does it's a volunteer organization. From the time I was 12 through the Air Force and after the Air Force until my last child was born in the later 2000s. Um, so I just really believe that we should be giving back. You don't rely on a government to do for you. Charity and I won't say handouts, but charity should come from people that want to give it and should come directly from them, because nobody can do things better than people giving directly and going out and helping to make things happen. The government certainly isn't good at taking your money and spending it wisely, but individuals, they analyze what's best and they spend their money more wisely to help people and impact more people that way. So, I've been through homelessness. I've been stuck in quicksand to where I had to be rescued. I've done bull riding. I've been through wilderness, winter, and water survival. I've I've felt discrimination, my family, and that's how we ended up homeless in Utah. I've had close calls with suicide because of everything I've been through. Been through earthquakes, tornadoes, lost everything in Hurricane Ian, almost everything. Lost my place to live. Almost ended up homeless in a park right after that. But thank goodness, a lot of miracles happened around that time. I've been in missile attacks, terror attacks. I was almost killed in Germany by a radical that tried to run me down with his car and then tried to stab me to death. I've been through accidents, ups and downs in business, include being sued by a major corporation for one of my brands that I developed in federal trademark court. I've been through divorce, obviously major health issues. I went through heart surgery last year, and I actually died last September and came back. And that was another experience in itself that'll be in my upcoming biography. But I'm still here. I continue to face some health challenges and a lot of pain, but I still love people and I love charity and I love giving back and I love business and entrepreneurship. So I'm luckily getting my health back to me just enough that I'm starting to kick off my business again, a little restructured. I have a beautiful and amazing, intelligent girlfriend, and we have the same values in life, in business, work, and play. And we're developing a coaching program together. So I'm super excited about that. And I have no doubt that while I'm still here in this plane, that I will continue to give and make a difference in people's lives. And I'm excited that I have a teammate with the same values I have that'll be doing that with me. And I have the same values she has. Just huge hearts. My one of our mentors said, Joe Bauer, he's the most amazing mentor ever, the mentor's mentor. He said she's a walking human heart with arms and legs, and she says the same thing about me, and she fits that to a T. And we're excited just to get out there, build a program to inspire a lot of people, use what we've learned. She's been through communism in Vietnam, and her family
Wow.
lost a tremendous amount and almost lost her mother and her sister. And she's just an amazing person. Her family's just brilliant and amazing, loving people. And so we're excited to get things fired up again. We're grateful that you had me here in this interview. And I'm writing my biography called freedomrocks.me. That's the name of my book, freedomrocks.me. It's also the domain name. So if you go to www.freedomrocks.me, you'll be able to follow my progress on that as I start releasing chapters soon as teasers up to the book release. So I'm super excited about that too.
So it sounds like you have gone through so much blessings and cursings. I'll use that as an analogy
Yeah.
that you have realized on both on that side. So that's why you'll just serve anybody to empower them to see blessing compared to cursing. That's what I summarize because
Yeah, I
you're
don't,
just life is like a cannon fodder thing. Like,
yeah, it's been an interesting life, but I have, at the time I thought it was a curse, and maybe if I didn't come back, maybe I think it was a curse. God blessed me with a decision as to whether I wanted to come back and serve or stay in peace and comfort, and I chose to come back. So I knew that my mission here needs to continue. I had an opportunity to come back and continue to serve, and that's where I'm at. So it just means a lot to me. Almost break me down there, but um, I'm excited about it. And you know, a big thing in my life has been ensuring liberty, freedom, and prosperity for people to make sure everybody has an equal chance um, at liberty, individual rights, and to experience freedom of speech and freedom of choice, and to build prosperity for themselves and their family and those they love. And that's what drives me. Everything that my family and my friends that have been through in life, and all the crazy things that, it's been like Jumanji in my life. If you've ever seen that movie Jumanji, where things just keep happening. But honestly, it hasn't been a curse. It's been a blessing. It's been an overall absolute blessing. And I've seen so many beautiful places and things. And the biggest thing is beautiful people and hearts. And during the hurricane, um, the people that came together to help us, my friends, family, and organizations like the Billy Graham organization, and some of the churches that came together, and actually, I loaded up before I came back to the west side of Florida. I loaded up to deliver food and supplies and water and milk to my friends and ice. And then I went back to my apartment to find it destroyed. And just people come together and doing wonderful things. It inspires me and fires me up. So I now make it my mission to continue to do that through our programs. I'm going to restart my Prosperity Insider Show, my Chief Solutionist program, but most importantly, the program that my girlfriend and I are developing together to reach out, inspire, and help more people. That's what drives me. We want to help more
that's
entrepreneurs, companies, and individuals to solve the problems and achieve through whatever they're facing.
That's really cool. So I
Thank you.
think in the sense of the next question, I think you've already answered it, but the secret
Oh,
fuel,
sorry.
because you've gone through a lot of pressure. No, it's totally fine. I just try to flow with it. So the secret fuel that you have when pressure and tough times come, just go through one of those tough times and try to see if you can determine that secret fuel. If you already have it, great. If let's figure it out live if we can. So
Oh my gosh, where do I start? There's been so many, you know? Um, well, I think the secret fuel really has been knowing my family went through so much and, you know, my grandparents and war and all, you know, we almost lost the freedom that we had in this country due to, at the time, the Japanese were our allies now, thank goodness, and the Nazis, who were still at work behind the scenes to make things happen. We won't get into that. We have another problem on the communist front that's working against our liberty as well. We won't get into that either. But I guess it's just to know that although there's so many beautiful hearts in the world, there's always that evil that's driven, that wants to take away liberty and freedom and rights from people. So I'm inspired by ensuring people have hope and ensuring people have love and compassion with them, that what God wants us to do, and charity, and help each other come together, help each other work for individual rights and liberty, and to help everybody succeed. That is just what fires me up. And there's been so many times through my life that I've seen, you know, these things, and I just realized that all these things that have happened for me, not to me, actually, they happened for
mhm,
me. They happen for me to be able to experience and learn through these things so I can help more people. And that fires me up.
that's really cool. So basically, every time you get an pressure and times tough come, that perseverance, so you can pass on the lesson to others, is your secret fuel. I think that's amazing
Yes.
with that. And to pull everything all together in one needle thread way, you mentor lots of people, been on tons of TV and video and everything else. Like, your bio was amazing. I almost went into a coma because it was so many things I read. It was like, wow. So out of all the things that you've learned, all the
What
people that you influence and everything else, if you had to give that yourself in 1999, or a client of yours, either way you want to reflect on it, what three tactics would you give them so they can thrive, not just survive?
Surround yourself with positivity. Surround yourself with the people that support you. Surround yourself with the people that are where you want to be. Love each other, give as much as you can while still providing for yourself fairly and lifting yourself up so that you can lift more people up. And I think those are some of the biggest things. You know, have an open mind. You know, when I was young in the service, I was a little straight and narrow and a little formal, a little hardcore. And if I'd had a little more of an open mind in the beginning, there's some challenges that wouldn't have been as difficult. So I think those are the most important things. Teamwork.
That's really awesome. Sounds like your logos go hand in hand. You see the open mind over here, and then thinking things outside of the box. Yeah, it looks like you basically have the logos and everything else that kind of
And
come
yeah,
together. Those
and if
tactics.
I may, my personal logo down here is actually worked into my new launch. I can't point to it, but if you see the key down there, in
Yeah,
conversion is key, the head of the key is a heart with the world in it. And I actually put that in there, and I put it in most of my logos, you know, whether they're hiding or not, because I believe in having heart and charity and bringing the world together for liberty, for individual rights. And that's the core value of my life, and that's built into my World Heart logo, which is my personal logo. So yeah, I encourage people, hey, create a personal logo, do whatever you got to do to have your core values, remind yourself of your core values, and that'll help you keep going as well.
that's really awesome. So I want to thank you, David, for being on the show. going over, he's giving us all the wisdom and pantheon of experiences to go over and to equip people to go over and to thrive. This last little bit is solely for you. If you want to talk about your website and your next upcoming things, and then just one statement or quote to close out, and then I'll go to credits. So I'll just fade you in, and then once you do your quote or last statement, then I will fade the credits. So the floor is yours.
Actually, I have several quotes I wrote. I wasn't prepared to say any of them. Um, but I do want to offer you and your followers a gift for having stuck through my long wind, and something that'll help them, especially if they're doing any marketing or online or just want to learn a little bit more about technology and what's happening. I'd like to give everybody an awesome free gift that I've put together. And everybody can get that by going to awesomefreegift.com. That's AWESOMEFREEGIFT.com. Awesomefreegift.com. And I have a gift there for you from my heart to yours, to all of you. And I'm grateful for you watching your show. I'm grateful for Daniel for having me on. It's an amazing thing that he's doing for veterans. And a lot of veterans out there really need this uplift. And I'm forever grateful for you doing this. Thank you.